Hiya. Welcome back to the Spacebook, talking all out there entertainment, live streaming to you here on YouTube. It's Saturday, the 9th of September 2022. And here in Great Britain, it's a weekend of reflection and respect as we mourn Her Majesty the Queen. A loss so many of us have felt really deeply and personally, taken some of us by more surprise than others, I think. But here we are together as friends, to support one another and to share the kind of things that brought us together in the first place, respectfully. I'm Dan Hadley, and once again, I'm joined by my mate, that naughtiest boy wonder, Mr. Matt Park.
Yes, I am naughty. Hello.
Naughty and on air, I see. That's a very attractive signage you've got behind
sign. You. Yeah. I thought, oh well, if anyone can't hear me, at least they know I'm still on air. But everybody can hear me. Come on.
I like your style, mate. I like your style. So gradually, the Naughty Boy studio is taking shape. The refit.
She's gonna. Yeah, yeah. She's taken a little longer than what I thought it would be, but yeah, she's about halfway there, I reckon. About halfway there. Ooh, there he is.
We all know. I think when you do this, when you put out this kind of content, we know how we'd kind of like to come across to you guys, to the world, how we want to represent ourselves. You want it to sort of reflect your personality and the kind of conversations that you like to have and the things that stimulate us. But is it a case of just getting out everything you own and throwing it on shelves indiscriminately? Maybe that works for some, Gary. It works for some, but not for others. I think, a bit of signage.
I like a bit of order.
Well, I like
a bit of order.
I bet, yes. Enough about that. I've got a succulent over there. Yeah, about where my other finger is. That finger there. I've got a succulent on the shelf back there. A little bit of light in, and it's taken me ages to decide what's going to go there. What's worthy of being sat next to Rosie, the house Dalek, of course. Speaking about being worthy, let's bring on our mate, regular panelist, writer, director, producer, and big old mega geek, Mr. Ian David Diaz. Are you receiving us?
I am indeed.
Hello, mate.
I want to direct. I want to decorate my place. But
I was going to say, I thought you already done the directing.
Yeah, exactly. But I can't because I am moving in end of next year. So it seems pointless me doing anything to my room. It's really pointless. Yeah, because this building's going to be knocked down.
I thought so.
It's going to be knocked down because it's been up since the 60s and it should have been knocked down ages ago. So they're knocking it down and giving me a new place, which is great. So there you go.
Get your own house?
Get my own place. It's huge because it had to be like for like because I've got a mortgage on this place. So it's going to be like for like. So it's going to be great. So
he's going for a mega move.
I am. Make a move.
I'm going to get as much mileage out as I possibly can. Yeah, I'm glad you've got a date for it at last because I know you've been speaking about it to me for at least 18 months to years. So that's good to know. Good to know. Right now, before we can get going into the good stuff, got to bring on our guest for this edition of the show. Okay, so yes, he's a pop culture pundit and YouTube veteran. I think his voice was probably one of the very first that I ever heard when I booted up YouTube originally, back whenever that was. I think I won't embarrass him by telling him exactly how long ago it was, but let's just bring him on. It's our mate Chris from Cultivated Media.
Hello.
Hiya, mate. How are you?
Hello, Chris. How you doing?
Hey,
Hi.
Ian. So hey, Matt. Ian, you're finally getting your new building. Yeah, I remember you telling me about that like 3 years ago. So, congrats,
I've seen.
man.
Well, what it
I've
is,
seen the
Chris,
plans.
he had to go over the blueprints. Well, that's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
get approval.
Had to have that. What is it? So, was that place where it shuts you in so nobody can beat you up? A panic room. I had to have a panic room in there and everything attached to it. Shutters that come down just in case. Yeah, and all that rubbish. Nah, it looks like
the brutalism style. I'm assuming yours is a big brutal block.
It is,
Yeah.
and it's run down as well. So I really need to get out of this area. So basically,
that's the thing about the UK. Your apartment buildings, or tower blocks, as you call them, are creepy as hell.
They are, especially in the night.
Yep.
Yeah, especially in the night.
Yeah.
The word is dank, I think, Chris. Dank.
Dank.
No, you have a lot of CCTV there too, don't you?
We do, but they don't work because the criminals break them.
We are the most. We have the most surveillance cameras per square foot than any other country in the world. I think that is, and that's not me being sarcastic. That's a genuine fact. Everybody, you can go and Google it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've got them all over my city now, and they've introduced the red light cameras, which are a trend. So basically, you blow a red light, it takes a picture, and you get a $350 ticket surprise in the mail.
Joy of
red light cameras.
Oh, we've had them for years.
Oh, yeah, that's obviously coming soon to UK shores. Look out for that, everybody. I think. Yeah. So what I wanted to do. Well, first of all, we are live streaming this over to YouTube. Of course, we are. We're going to get round to your comments a little bit later on. Glad you could join us. We're very interested to hear what you've got to say about all of this as well. And that's what we do here. We get together and we talk about all things in out there entertainment. I'm talking movies, TV, comic books, games when we have a gamer in, and across the genres too. So sci-fi, fantasy, horror, superhero movies, a bit of comedy, whatever we feel like, really. If you can geek out about it, we want to talk about it. That's the general gist of it, really, isn't it, Ian?
Yeah, definitely. Sorry.
And first of all, what I thought to tell us. Oh, no, before we get there, actually, I know we've got the little ticker tape running along the bottom, but if you haven't already, please like this video now. You're going to be having far too much fun later on to remember. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's been a big boon week for the channel this week. Got past that milestone, of course we did, and the subscribers have continued to rise again. So thank you very much for all of that. Please, if you are a lurker, make this the day that you subscribe to the channel. And
I'm a lurker, but I'm subscribed.
Here's a lurker, but the restraining order's up soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so keep that all coming. First of all, we're actually going to go over to Matt because he is our animation expert. I say that dubiously. You count yourself.
I know a few things. Yes,
an animation analyst, I think we can call him. And this is our first look for today. So we're going to look a little at Wendell and Wild. Now, I hadn't heard of this at all, and there's a very good reason for that, I think. But I'd certainly heard of the bloke who is behind it. It's a man called Henry Selick, isn't it, Matt? And so where will people have seen this name before? Because it's at the very, very top, above the name Jordan Peele. Now we know Jordan Peele. He's been around a lot the last 3 or 4 years. Lots of movies, I think, and writing and directing and show running a new version of The Twilight Zone. We see his name everywhere, but Henry Selick, not so much. Where will people have seen that name before?
Well, he's no relation to Tom,
No.
but Henry Selick has quite a pedigree. In about 1992, he directed a little film called The Nightmare Before Christmas, which was a huge flop. But it's one of those films that was that over time has become massive.
Yeah.
But he wasn't really credited with that movie, even though he directed it, because it was also produced by a guy named Tim Burton, who ended up pretty much taking all the credit for all of it. And so it wasn't until a movie came out called Coraline.
Coraline's brilliant.
Yeah. And written by some famous author who I forget his name anyway.
And that was a good 12 years ago, wasn't it? That's quite an old film now, too.
No, longer than 12 years. Yeah,
Really?
no, that would have been mid 2000s. It was one of the first movies to be in 3D actually, for stop motion. But anyway, yeah, so he did that, and then he's done a few others in between. I think he might have something to do with the studio like that created like Kubo and all those ones as well. So,
yes, Leica they're called, aren't they? Leica.
Yeah, but he did a movie in 2001 which I think was a genius. I love it to pieces, called Monkey Bone with Brendan Fraser, and it was crossed between, it was sort of like Roger Rabbit but with stop motion animation.
I remember it. Yeah,
and that
was also rather a flop, wasn't it? Unless that did well in Australia or in America, certainly got no profile.
Massive flop. Yep, massive flop. That's the problem that he's had. It wasn't until Coraline until he actually became noticed to be that animation, the animation guy, director.
Because it's very, very distinctive, isn't it, Matt? The way that the stop, I suppose, that part of the novelty and part of the aesthetic appeal of stop motion is when I think of stop motion, Chris, I don't know about you, I think about Ray Harryhausen.
Yep.
He was the master, I think. Skeletons juddering across the screen, and recently I've seen YouTubers have gone into those old Ray Harryhausen films and removed that sort of staggering effect, Matt, and it doesn't look quite the same. But with the Henry Selick stuff, obviously, we're talking about films that are largely aimed at children, aren't they? Even the darker stuff, perhaps aimed at older children and a family audience. But this reads like, originally this is based on a book, but it's based on a book that nobody's read because it's not even been published. A book written by Henry Selick himself. It's been taken to full animation, and Netflix are going to premiere it at the end of October. And it says it is the story of Kat, who in this is voiced by Lyric Ross, a troubled teen haunted by her past who must confront her personal demons. Wendell and Wild, who are played by Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele, to start a new life in her old hometown. Wild also stars Angela Bassett, James Hong, and Ving Rhames. God, I haven't seen him on anything for a long, long time. So the trailer for this dropped the other day. The film's out on Netflix on October the 28th. As somebody who loves this form, this medium, just as much as I do, what were your thoughts on this first? What do you think?
Well, I've got to be honest. I'm not a huge Jordan Peele fan. I know what he's like behind the scenes, sort of thing, and he's a bit of an a-hole.
But put it mildly.
Yeah. So when I knew that he was going into this direction, I kind of expected it, the look of it, and it looks exactly like I thought it would. So yeah, I mean, I didn't even know it was him that it actually was producing this until I saw the trailer. No, well, I saw the trailer, and then I was like, that's Jordan Peele's connection. There, he has to be a producer or something of it. I didn't know he was one of the characters of the Demons. But yeah, I mean, I've always liked these sort of edgy, dark animation, stop motion animations. Anyway, there's been a few of them. One really escapes me right now, but they've been doing it for a while because some people are into this. Like there was one called Santa Inc. not so long ago that was.
And the ones that spring to my mind are movies like The Box Trolls, which have that kind of unsettling feel. A couple of my children were very young when that came out, and it was the kind of movie where it was a kids' film, but they needed to watch it with me.
See, I mean, I was always into the Aardman. I loved Aardman movies. Pirates and Misfits is one of my favorites from them. And
nice film.
You know, I just I think Box Trolls and those sort of Leica, who do the animation for that, they do a combination between stop motion and CGI, so they blend the two together.
Whereas this looks pure stop motion, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I think there's some CGI in there.
Yeah, there'd be CGI to remove wires and other things to hold the actual characters up. So other than that, you know, I mean, back in the old days, they didn't have any of that. So, you saw all the strings and everything that was holding them up. Yeah, I mean, I'll give it a go. It's on Netflix, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's obviously released just in time for Halloween too. So, again, kids are going to latch onto this. I think that it could potentially be really good. It seems a little Christmas Carol-esque. That's what I'm picking up from it. And almost a little Dickens-like. The idea that there's these two characters. It reminds me of
Christmas Carol. Is one of those ones that I've always felt needed to be stop motion animation, and it never has been. It's always been in some sort of different.
Great Expectations is the Dickens thing I'm thinking about, where he's haunted by the convict, and as you see, these two demons are dressed as convicts. I'm thinking of Magwitch So I was really quite impressed by this. I think it looks like fun. Yes, you can tell that it's got that kind of Jordan Peele-ish feel to it. Obviously, the main character is a little Afro-Caribbean girl. That's fine. That's no problem at all. And creatively, this does seem to be very much in line with what we've seen from Henry Selick in the past, doesn't it? It's as if
one of my favorite Henry Selick films is one of the ones that no one ever talks about, and it was actually an adaptation of Roald Dahl's James and the Giant Peach. And I love that film, and to me, I mean, I think it's actually higher up than Nightmare Before Christmas. So,
I suppose I like
Nightmare too.
I suppose the proof of the pudding in this, I mean, I thought the trailer looked quite good, but the proof of the pudding with this kind of thing is there any? I think what we're all a little stealing ourselves for, Chris, is there any messaging in the story and in the script? That's what we have to sort of hold back hold back our enthusiasm.
Well, I looked at the cast list, Dan, and I couldn't see one white person's name in that cast list at all for voices, and I was just like,
that's absolutely fine though.
Well,
it depends if the characters are. I don't really think it matters. But if all the characters are, for example, African Americans, then I have no problem in African American voice artists. Of course, of course they should cast them. What I have a problem is not a problem so much. What I sort of roll my eyes at a little bit is the idea that somebody like Hank Azaria can't voice an Indian man on The Simpsons anymore, when he has done for years. And if he can't do that, then why can Nancy Cartwright still voice a 10-year-old boy? I just think it's ludicrous. But yeah, I just think this looks like fun. It looks like a little treat for Halloween that could potentially entertain families. Chris, Ian, what do you think?
I've never been a big fan of stop motion animation, although I've watched Ray Harryhausen. I own a couple films somewhere in the depths of my collection. Although I can appreciate it, and then you got really bad stop motion animation. I'm thinking of the end of Howard the Duck, which is absolutely hilarious if anybody's ever watched that film. But no, I'm willing to give it a chance, although I have to be honest, I am not a fan of Jordan Peele at all. I think Get Out was a good movie, but I think it was highly overrated. Us, my God, more plot holes than you could drive a truck through. It's the same thing. It's certain creators. Although we all know about Access Media and Rotten Tomatoes, but it was almost like anybody was afraid to even remotely criticize it. And I think his title for his upcoming film, well, the one that's already out, Nope, says exactly what my thoughts are on it. It's
you want to see a bad film that he produced? Try Fantasy Island.
Oh, I forgot he was involved in that.
Yeah, that was no. Actually, man, that is so bad it's good. That film is absolutely ridiculous. The choices that they make, and again, plot holes.
Austin.
If you put even the slightest degree of thought, the whole movie makes no sense. None at all.
Well, you think so when it comes to kids' films and family films, Chris, it's quite a fine line to walk, isn't it, between making something scary and making it terrifying. What do you think the markers are for that? You know, you're somebody who loves horror, and did that start in your childhood? And what the kind of things that sort of scared you, sent you behind the sofa, or kept you awake at night? Kids find that sort of thing delicious, don't they? But you haven't got to completely terrify them. So where do you think the guideline is?
Well, I'd say you can divide horror into two types. You've got the jump scares, CGI fest, stop motion animation fest, gross out fest. But then you've got the films, which are the ones that I prefer, which it's not what you're seeing on screen. It's often what you're not seeing on screen. And a creative writer that can create a sense of dread. The first horror film that I remember watching, it was actually Disney. Now, if you remember Disney in the 1980s, we had Dark Disney, where they were making some messed up stuff, even by today's standards, which was brilliant.
Black Cauldron. Black Cauldron.
Well, the one I'm thinking of, and it's never been released on Blu-ray to this date, although for the longest time, the whole movie was streaming on Netflix. But it came out in the early 80s. I was really young when I watched it, but it was a movie called The Watcher in the Woods.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Isn't Betty Davis in
Davis.
Yeah. And that was my introduction, but that's the kind of horror I prefer, where it's, it's not in your face. It's creating an atmosphere. It's another example would be, say, something like the Amityville Horror, which always falls into the love it or hate it. You don't actually see a lot in that movie, but it's the way it's shot and the creeping death in the background of Scary House. But I think that's if the line is definitely drawn when you have movies like, the Saw torture porn franchise is the best example. Obviously, those aren't for kids, but those, even though they're considered part of the horror genre, they're not really terrifying. They're just gross out. So it's I'll give you another example. A classic, The Haunting, from 1963, the original Haunting. Not
the black and white one.
Yeah, not the.
Did Robert Wise direct that?
Yep. Yeah.
Yes,
Star Trek, the motion picture dude himself. But it's, I think that's a perfect example of something that you can introduce to kids. You don't have to go that far back, but it's, obviously you got to watch the language and stuff like that. Although I guess people don't care about that these days. But that's where I think the line is drawn. I think it's okay for kids to watch something with a creeping sense of dread. Another one like the. Even though it's a little bit extreme to the other end, the first two Insidious movies, where it wasn't all in your face, it was also although they do maybe not appropriate for kids in the end, but that's what I like. So that's where I think the line is drawn, where you can create a sense of dread that's going to scare the crap out of the kids, but without showing them, Star Trek Picard eyeballs getting ripped, that kind of stuff.
But putting children themselves, obviously, when children are more often they're the central characters of films like this, putting a child in peril, even if it's a CGI or stop motion child, that's bound to unsettle a child, isn't it? Because we want our children to feel safe, to feel like no harm can come to them. So it's a very, very precise line to walk, Ian. And the duty of care we have, don't we? I mean, I know that you haven't directed or written for children, but I dare say you're very aware of that too.
This looks okay. It just, I have no problem with them casting actors or even claymation. Is it claymation? Figures, of different colors. Because if it's originally that's what it's meant to be, then I have no problem with that. It's just when they start taking, establishing characters. But I've said this before. So I have no problem with the cast in this at all. But I don't know. It looks okay. I might catch it. It doesn't look like anything that would move heaven and earth to see, if you know what I mean. And this is the problem with a lot of films these days.
Yeah, there's something off about the style. I'm not really a big fan of that particular style.
Do you think, Matt, that it's not, that even though we're happy to see a film with Henry Selick attached to it now, that it's not pushing the envelope? It's not pushing the art form along in the way that it probably should be.
Well, to
for somebody who's not directed a film for.
to him it probably is. He is trying to push it to another level, but you can only take stop motion so far.
I don't think he is though, Matt. I think basically, he's just grateful for the work that's come in, grateful for people financing what he's doing. I mean, because obviously his love is stop motion animation. That's his first love, obviously. And, it's fair enough, right? And the Netflix sponsored it or financed it. It's going to be on TV. He's on to the next project, isn't he? He's on to the next one. That's the way it goes.
Well, he's getting on in years, so he's like Tim Burton, but he hasn't had as many chances as Tim Burton has.
Do you think it is a last-ditch attempt then by Henry Selick to get it published? To get the book of Wendell and Wild out there? That's what his ultimate end game actually is for this.
Did he create it?
Yes, but
it
remains unpublished. I would imagine it's going to look very, very pretty, but publishing
and very, very different. I reckon
big money in kids' books, isn't it?
I think that there's a lot of influence by Jordan Peele in this movie, but it might be just the fact that maybe he wanted to get the actual movie financed, Mr. Selick, and unfortunately Peele was the only one available that would had the money.
Well,
so
Peele is trying to create
a universe.
I hate to say this, a black universal, because he has his own studios where he
I don't like it either, but that seems to be what he's aiming.
And that seems
he's got
like
his own production company, or has he got something that's within Universal?
It looks like that's what he's trying to do. So he's breaking into animation. He's broken into horror. He's breaking into TV shows. He's trying to create this thing where it's like a big support.
He ruined the Twilight Zone. If you've ever seen the Twilight Zone version that he did, it was awful.
Made it halfway through one episode, and
it was awful. Even the famous one, what was it? The one that was based on William Shatner's 20,000 Above.
He changed it.
Yeah, totally changed it, and it just didn't need changing. It was a classic.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Watch that, but that's the reason why I didn't, because I heard he was just remaking old episodes and changing them, and I thought that was cultural sort of vandalism.
But that's what I'm saying. He's trying to create this company where it houses black stories and black shows and stuff like that. And good luck to him and all that stuff. But that's why he's broken into animation, because next thing he'll be breaking into a live TV, like Big Brother or something like that. He's trying to expand on what he's trying to create, and there's nothing wrong with that. Good luck to him and all that.
Are you suggesting that he's trying to ultimately create? I mean, because I think he seems like a decent enough guy. I certainly admire his work. I admire anybody's ambition if they're going to try different things.
Yeah,
but it sounds from the way you describe that he may be trying to create almost like a parallel culture that is exclusively for.
That's exactly what he's doing. That's exactly what he's doing. It's no mistake. It's no mistake. Nope is cast away. It's cast. There's no mistake that all the films that he's put out is cast away. It's cast because that's what he's doing. And as I said, I've got no problems with that at all. I wish Hollywood would have complete sections for black filmmakers, Asian filmmakers and stuff like, instead of ripping. Like taking Star Trek and destroying it and stuff like that. I wish.
The stupidest thing in the world, though, Ian, and you'd know this yourself from being a movie buff, is that they used to do this back in 1930s. They used to make different versions for different countries. They used to make a Spanish version of Dracula, which is far superior to the original Bela Lugosi one. It is far superior. The effects, everything. They use the same stages, everything from Universal, and it is far superior.
I had no idea.
You've never seen this?
No, I had no idea.
If you have the Universal Blu-ray set, they have both versions, and it's actually, I think what they would do is they would film the English version during the day, and then the Spanish version in the evening. And you can watch. It's actually really surreal the way they used to do that.
Dan. That's
no. I've only got the sort of the surface. I've got a sort of normie's perspective of that line of movies. So I've seen a great deal of them, but I've never read books on them. I've never really looked at. I don't think I've ever Googled any of them. I just watched.
This was before they were able to dub anything. So So instead of dubbing, they just recreated it again. So yeah.
It's like the Italian giallo genre, which I'm a fan of. It's for those of you who don't know, think of it as Italian films based on detective novels. And the word giallo means that they had yellow covers. Giallo is yellow in Italian, and that's why it's called giallo. But
Gotcha.
the way
See, I thought that was a kind of ice cream, Chris. So you've got me there. I've outed myself as a Philistine again on the show.
Okay, well, it might be a kind of ice cream, but no, it's this is in Dario Argento. One example is the master of this, where what they would do is there'd be an Italian and an English version of the film, and what he would do is he would have Italian and English actors. They would speak their own language, so probably odd to sit through and listen to this, especially for actors that don't speak the other language. But so you have two people having a conversation, one is speaking English, one is speaking Italian. He would usually have, for the American roles, larger American actors, and I think for the most part, larger Italian actors as well. And then what the directors would do is, so for the English version, obviously the Italian is dubbed over. Actually, well, to be honest, the entire movie, especially with Argento, the entire movie is actually dubbed over. As far as I know, some of them he didn't even actually record sound on the stage, so the English actors would overdub their lines, and then they'd have a non-Italian actor overdub the Italian lines. Then they do the reverse, which if you watch them, you can tell. And the first time I watched them, before I realized,
It's going to slow things down, isn't it? It's going to take people out of the moment.
Yeah,
actors.
You could tell. You could tell something's not quite right.
Because of the sound.
When you're watching
it's a bit like Monkey happening, the whole, remember the series Monkey? It's a bit like that. But the thing is, they're talking English. You can see their lips moving with syncing to the sound, but it is off. Yeah.
But they did that with the spaghetti westerns with Clint Eastwood. So they had Clint Eastwood talking English and everybody else around him was talking Italian or whatever, Spanish, whatever. But the best way to dub someone that's basically not speaking the language that it's supposed to be. The best example of that is Goldfinger. The guy who played Goldfinger, his whole voice was dubbed, and the way they did it was because he was talking so fast. When they dubbed over it, and speak at the same speed, it actually looks like he's actually saying those words. There was a kind of like a technique to it, whatever, where they made the actor speak fast. I realized
I had no idea that was dubbed for years.
So
in fact, Eon were kind of masters at that. A lot of the Bond girls were dubbed too, as well, weren't they? And some of them are getting still quite irate about it even now. God, we are down a rabbit hole already, everybody. Let us know what you think of all of that. You got me want to go and find out more about these Spanish Dracula films. Yes, but don't go and Google yet. Stick with the show. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the cloister bell so you get the notifications about what we're doing next. Let us know what you think of this movie of Wendell and Wild. Have you still got quite small kids? Would you show them this? Is this something you think you could sit down and watch at Halloween with the kiddies, or would it be a little bit too scary for them? And do you have fond memories, as I do, of all the stop motion Ray Harryhausen stuff and all the TV animations over the years too, all the Wallace and Gromit stuff? And there's that thing about the snowman, Frosty the Snowman from the States, and the reindeer one.
Reindeer one,
that's the ones. Yeah, everybody loves the stop motion like that. Now, I'm very aware over the last couple of days there have been two major occasions going on in the geek calendar. The Disney D23 Expo event. That is still. I was actually a little pause for Ian's plug hole to gurgle like that. So we've got that's going on. I think it's still going on for another couple of days, according to that. Yeah, obviously over tomorrow in Anaheim. And a couple of days ago there was Star Trek Day, no less.
Which they completely ignored Kirk. They completely dissed Kirk.
I haven't got a clue.
I saw one of the worst adverts for that today, actually. And it was
I saw some key art. If you remember, on the key art last year that they put out all around social media, William Shatner, there was a massive picture of Sonequa Martin Green and various of them. And William Shatner was like there in the corner like that. But on this one this year, I noticed that the key art was divided. It was very, very even.
He wasn't there.
I've seen two different versions, and I can't remember who was on which one.
George Takei.
What with the news breaking, I've seen so little of the culty, geeky news. I simply don't know. But at some point in the next week or so on the show, we're going to get into Star Trek Day and get into D23. We'll get back to you with our thoughts on all of that. A reminder that Wendell and Wild is on Netflix October the 28th. So let us know what you think of that. Maybe another trailer, and we may even look at it, review it later on. Speaking of reviews, don't miss the Spacebook Listed. That's back this Monday, 8 p.m. here on the Spacebook channel with myself, the Mega Geek here, Ian David Diaz, our friend Andy from Atomic Blonde LDN. I always have to be careful how I say that. And our geeky friend Nikki P. Smalley, the one-man binge machine, who's no show seems too long for Nikki to be able to binge it in a week. So we'll see how we get on with that. We're not going to tell you what we're going to be reviewing in the shows coming up. You're going to have to tune in. Tune in 8 p.m. here on the Spacebook channel to find out where we're going next. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel so you get notifications about all of that. Let's head into one of our favorite franchises past, I think, Ian, and talk a little bit about Alien, where it's been and where it's going, because we have this is the state of play at the moment. When Disney bought pretty much everything, they bought 20th Century Fox, didn't they? And they inherited certain properties. Now they inherited Predator being one. We've just seen a product of that, the very first Predator project they put out, the movie Prey, which we reviewed on the show. That was around 6 or 7 weeks ago. But of course, they've also got Alien. Now, it's one thing to toy with the Predator franchise. I love Predator, but it is just a big, silly monster movie. That's part of the fun of it. That's why it works. Alien, I think, as originally envisaged, brought to the screen by Ridley Scott, it may also be a monster horror franchise film, but it's absolutely about something. There are themes to this. It's almost literate. And when it's done well, I think there are people out there now who will say that we now live in a world where there are more bad Alien films than good ones. I think that's probably, it's subjective, but probably not far from the mark.
I like Alien 3.
But Alien is a franchise that still has managed to retain some sort of veneer of respectability and of prestige, I think. But yeah, so they've got hold of this. Alien is going over to the FX/Hulu brand, which is also owned by Disney. I think they bought that a few years before. But Hulu, which we don't get in Great Britain, it's got this, I wouldn't say restricted, rated R demographic, but it does seem to be a place where they can play a little more creatively. Like the Tommy and Pam miniseries I'm thinking of in particular, which was obscene in places, and various miniseries too that are very, very geeky, quite obscure, and not the kind of thing you would find under the Disney banner. So I'm quite excited by the fact that FX and Hulu is going to be a home for this Alien TV series that we've been promised now for a couple of years. We have no footage. We have no trailers. We haven't got any still images, but we do have some production art here. Now, Alien, when we hear of Alien, I don't know about you, Chris, but to me, it still conjures up one woman. It still conjures up the images of Sigourney Weaver. And an Alien without Sigourney Weaver, is it really Alien?
An Alien without Sigourney Weaver, or an Alien without H.R. Giger's artwork, because obviously he's gone now. Alien is an oddity, and we have a lot of these 80s franchises that kept getting beat to death. I would also reference the Terminator. The less said about the most recent movie, the better. But with Alien, you have two brilliant movies. I think two of the best films all time, with the genius of Ridley Scott and James Cameron with the first two. And actually, Aliens, 1986, which I think I was 9 when I saw that. Another example of early horror that I saw. The Alien franchise, honestly, they should have ended it after Alien 3, which I've come to appreciate more as time has gone by. But of course, now we have a new edit, which helps the film. That came out, I think, in 2003, if I'm not mistaken. So 10 years after the original film. But this is a franchise that I think should be left alone. It's, it goes without saying. Stop rebooting things. Stop bringing things back. There was an attempt to bring Alien back with Prometheus and Alien Covenant. Honestly, the two movies were so forgettable. I didn't watch Prometheus until after Covenant came out. I remember one day I was homesick. This was shortly after Covenant came out on Blu-ray, so this was about 4 or 5 years ago. I watched the two of them in one sitting. Was bored. Right now I can't tell you what happened in either of them because it was so forgettable at this point. But Alien, it's one of those you dilute these things when you keep trying to bring them back.
Well, it's the same story all the time, isn't it? It's the same story, and there's nothing new they can do with it. But
no, it's like Terminator. You can only go so far with
that's
it.
fair enough. Yeah.
But I do believe that the computer game where they featured her daughter is quite a good story. I
mean the survival horror one?
Yeah, so I haven't.
Yeah, I didn't like that as much because you can't.
Because a lot of people tell me it's really good and they should have made that into film, but I don't. I know
even I'd heard of that
it.
game.
Yeah, it is, but you hide in closets and under tables most of the time, and I find that boring. And it's true, and like, I mean, you know, you got like the Alien Queen that's now a Disney princess, and so that's enough for me, you know.
Did anybody see the trailer for The Little Mermaid? I saw it this morning.
No, I haven't seen this.
I was like this. Why?
What did they?
It's good to see E.T.'s got a job again.
Is this a live action Little Mermaid?
Yeah,
I know there's one coming. I know that the Pinocchio's just dropped as well. I'm going to try and watch that this weekend. But yeah, there is I think what it is that the prestige of Alien and Aliens and that brand. I don't think this has been flogged to death, but I think we are sort of circling the plug hole with it, and it's a key time to either, as you said, Chris, to just let it rest, let it gather dust, and let us appreciate it for what it was, rather than trying to unnaturally extend its lifespan. Or to take it, Ian, as something that is now, and this is the evolution, though, isn't it? This is where we see this time and time again, the evolution of something away from something that was successful in the past, like Jumanji, to become a brand, to become a franchise, and it's proceed with caution time, isn't it, for anybody who holds any intellectual property rights?
Okay, so the only way they can bring back Alien, if I was in charge, this is what I would do, right? And it's not original. I would make it into a TV series, but what I would do, right, is, which I haven't done in any of the movies, is make the alien come down to Earth and maybe cut into the history of Earth where the aliens have taken over. No, they haven't. They have never done it. Where the aliens have taken, mostly decimated half the Earth, and people are trying to survive. Maybe do that.
They were supposed to do that with the third one, but Ian, I will add a counter argument. I think what makes the Alien franchise work, especially the first two, and then they tried it with the third and the fourth.
Third one didn't work.
But it has to be in an isolated environment. That's part of, especially those first two movies. I think that's what made it work.
No, see, that's the thing. You see, the best thing that James Cameron did to the Alien franchise is that he didn't copy the first one. Now, to copy the isolation thing from the first one, I think is wrong. What you have to do is go the opposite direction now and have a full-scale war between Earthlings and the aliens. That's what
you expand the concept and speak in relative terms, Ian. So I suppose I'm sort of
like War of the Worlds,
playing devil's advocate. I actually agree with Chris, but I also agree with you too. I think that you could find the middle ground there, whereby you can create that sense of isolation without not necessarily remaking the same movie. So it's not just one woman that's isolated, or five people. It could be an entire planet. With that far into the future, that Earth has been taken over and completely isolated from, say, a community, a federation, a Star Trek-like federation. And so humanity's on our own, the sacrifice to the aliens.
So you can have, as Chris said, you can have little pockets of stories within the series that, yes, there is these isolated moments, but then you can have the whole of the army and the Earth trying to defend themselves from these creatures that's invaded their planet. I mean, that is spectacular. That is huge. That would be a great TV show to do, and that's what they haven't done so far. And I think that is the natural step to go forward with the Alien franchise. Create new characters, of course. If you want to bring back Ripley, I don't know how you're going to do that, but anyway, do you know what I mean? But it's the way
Neil
to step
Blomkamp wanted to do that, didn't he?
Yeah,
And I know that's another story, another project entirely. They've been speaking about that a little as well, but I think that's pretty much lost, I think, to the mists of time for now.
They did bring her back with her toenail clipping. So they did.
Oh, God.
I'm sure that she clipped more than a few more toenails.
Okay, well, this is the Alien TV show that we have got coming in. You'll be pleased to know it's from FX, and it's due to begin production sometime next year. So it has been held back a little bit initially due to the pandemic, and I don't know what's
we're talking 2028.
It seems.
So
it says here in the publicity, it says the series has had a lengthy development, but the effects studio Weta, they have been developing concepts, designs, and mechanisms and technologies to make this happen. And we have some concept art here. This is the first.
They're not working on Lord of the Rings anymore, are they?
Well, I was going to ask, well, you tell us, Matt, so which names, which brands, which movies will people be aware of Weta from other things?
Oh, gosh. Well, Weta's mostly known for Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, all those sort of trilogy. It's owned by pretty much Peter Jackson. And so they were involved in the Tintin movie, District 9.
That's another film that had left no cultural footprint. The Tintin movie,
just like
Alien Covenant.
I couldn't care less. I'd rather have Asterix than Tintin. But
yeah, I love Asterix. Yeah,
yeah. But they also did the special effects for District 9 as well, if you remember that one. The South African one. Beautiful. So they've done recently. They've just done the Thunderbirds reboot.
Oh no, they rebooted that.
Why?
Didn't you see the CGI Thunderbirds?
That was awful.
Was
a nice kids show. No, I disagree. I thought that was good.
That's Weta. That is Weta, mate.
And there's a lot of Doctor Who fans that work at Weta as well, because they designed Paul McGann's sonic screwdriver, the one with the wood paneling on. They designed that completely for free for Paul, presented it to him at a convention, didn't they? So there's a lot of major league geeks that work at Weta. But we have got these images are from Alien versus Predator Galaxy. So they had this, they've broken these. I don't know if they were officially released to them or whether they stole them. I don't know. That's my disclaimer. But here we have our first look at what this TV show could look like, Ian. So we are on Earth just as you wanted it to be on Earth in the future, and there I think we can see what looks like a scattering of alien eggs. It looks like it's in a factory setting or an engine room of some kind, and there's two soldiers intrepidly.
If they are running with the idea that I had, then I hope they execute it very well.
And I hope they give you a paycheck too.
No, but the thing is, though, they could either execute it really well with loads of thoughts and stuff like that, or they can execute really bad and rush it and just make all the characters like cardboard and stuff like that. And do you know what I mean? And it's probably going to be the latter, to tell you the truth.
It says here that these 3 pieces of early concept art, this is directly from Alien vs. Predator Galaxy, these 3 pieces of concept art depict planned scenes which all take place during the earlier part of this first season, and they allude to specific plot developments. So there could be spoilers for it ahead, but they show it's a crashed Weyland-Yutani spaceship, the CSS Maginot, which is crashed in the middle of a city, cutting into the underground levels. The city is controlled by the Prodigy Corporation, who are a business rival of Weyland-Yutani. And we've got these 2 soldiers in this industrial-looking room approaching those xenomorph eggs there.
So basically, they're going down the route of trying to weaponize them again. I never understood the concept of weaponizing an alien. It's just stupid. Do you know what I mean? How can you weaponize an alien? Because it has its own mind, and unless you hypnotize it or something, or it just doesn't make any sense to me, that idea of weaponizing. I don't know about you guys, but anyway.
Well, in the original films, in the first 2, actually, in the third film as well. I haven't seen the 4th one for quite a long time. They sold me on it, but I don't think it's something you can keep going back to and not doing anything with, because big business, obviously, business attracts rivals, And I do see this as a viable way to take the story, but it's going to be a very precise balance, I think. But if do you want to make something about intercorporational espionage, or do you want to make a monster movie into a TV show? We saw what happened when Star Wars Episode 1 became sort of bogged down with politics, didn't we, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
And you wouldn't want that to happen with something like Alien. We want to be ideally scared out of our pants, don't we, when we watch this show?
There was a wonderful comic adaptation I saw of Aliens. It was set in the 1950s, and I think it had Ripley's great-great-grandfather in it, and he actually fought them. I think he was a doctor, and it's if you can go out and find it, it's out there somewhere. But that to me is something new, Aliens in 1950s, Backtown. US. So I just I don't really want to know anything else about after Prometheus and that. I just gave up on it.
God, Prometheus was
these images though, but that was nearly 10 years ago, wasn't it? This is potentially something fresh.
Prometheus was 10 years ago, but only 5 years ago for Covenant.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, and that even topped it off to be the worst.
I liked it, to be truthful, but I see exactly what you mean. I don't think it necessarily added anything to the longevity of the brand. I think they got away with it more than pulled anything off. But in this last image, we see something which is kind of, that looks like it could have come out of the concept art for David Fincher's Alien 3 there, right? It's all very evocative, but then again, concept art always is, isn't it? But it does give you an example, though, doesn't it, Ian, of the kind of tone they want to go for. So this is not some sort of Disney hybrid Alien project, certainly at this stage of its development, is it? This does look promising.
Sorry, my mic fell over. Yeah.
Look, as long as it doesn't have David show up in it, it should be good.
The art looks great, but then it doesn't really tell you what the show's going to be like. And
no, of course not.
Yeah, you can bet your bottom dollar that some kind of present day nonsense will enter into this, so whatever.
Well, we can't. The only way we can sort of judge that, the only markers we have for that are the creative people that are involved in it, aren't they? And this is this
and what's gone in the past too.
This is being led. Ridley Scott was in the dead center of that.
You know what I really want? I really want a Blade Runner TV show.
No.
Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. So this one, this TV show, the showrunner, the head creative, the guy in the middle of this is Noah Hawley, an American director, producer, and writer for TV and film. He created and wrote that acclaimed FX, again back at FX, adaptation of Fargo, which was originally a Coen Brothers film, wasn't it? So he turned that into a TV show, sort of anthology show. I think that ran for. In fact, it might still be running because it's one of those things like True Detective. They make 10 episodes of it now and again. Chris, do you watch any of those shows?
No. Although, actually,
me neither.
No, Fargo, actually, it's been on my list. I think
Me
almost
too.
as long as it's been around. I think, 4 years now at least. But I think going back to Alien, this TV series, how it looks is one thing, the effects are one thing, because it's nothing now to throw decent looking effects together. You can you can get a 10-year-old on a
You always say that, don't you, Ian?
Mac. It comes down to the writing. That's what's been lost. Like it's for the past 20 years, especially with reboots, they turn them into CGI fests. And then they focus on the effects over story. It had become a really big problem in horror. So for something like this, I find it hard to judge based off of visuals. Like, say if you look at visuals from some elements of, say, Star Trek Discovery, it looks good, some of it. But the story, that's what you have to use to grab me. The rule I go by now, because obviously I don't review things anymore, but I'll watch one episode and I'll give it a chance. If they don't grab me, go ahead, Matt.
No, you're right. You go.
Oh no, I just say if you can't grab me within one episode, I'm not watching anything else from your show. In fact, if you don't grab me halfway through the first episode, I switch off. And I think that's what people are accustomed to doing now. So it has to be well written, and it has to grab people right away, or they're just going to leave. And that's the way TV works now.
Yeah.
There's
so you heard Ian's wants of an Alien TV show, Chris. Would you just rather they not do this at all, or is there anything about the potential for Alien to be on television that does appeal in any way?
I'm
particularly
at the point where I'm sick of remakes. I would be an advocate for a complete moratorium on remaking or rebooting or recontinuing anything. Just say, okay, no, give me new stuff, because we're not getting new stuff anymore.
The thing is, like, you've got that concept art there, Dan, and it looks all spectacular in that. But so did the concept art in the Phantom Menace Star Wars book making of. Behind the scenes, you're just like, wow, that looks so good. And then when you see the finished product, it's a pile of poop. So,
looked okay in 1999. Yeah, maybe.
That's how you get around it now, because it's a lot better than the sequels. So,
yes, I don't know. Lots can change.
I think if they do go down this. See, the thing is, they should just avoid everything that happened in the past, like the weaponizing thing, the army and stuff. That's why I say come in the middle of what's actually happened, and it's set in the future, and it's the Earth has already been invaded by these things, and it's like pocket, like the zombie one. What was the zombie one called? Oh God, my brain is on shutdown.
With Will Smith in it. I Am Legend.
No, the TV show, Walking Dead. Like The Walking Dead, they came in, especially with the sheriff coming out of his coma, whatever it is, coming out of the hospital. He goes into the world, the world's decimated, all these things are running around. Just come in like that, and then have human stories connected to what's happening around them. Like really what they did in that. And then they should have a good show on their hands.
You know what would really be good? I reckon that you got me thinking. A really good show based on the Alien franchise would be about a similar thing that happened in Aliens with the colony. Just have a colony on a new planet, whatever, and then like build it up with the characters, the humans, and everything like that. And then all of a sudden they find aliens, and then see the dynamic between the characters and that over seasons, and trying to survive. I think that'd be.
I reckon that series on Hudson. That's what I. Should do series on Hudson.
Game over, man. Game over.
Let's get him back, shall we?
So that's the Alien TV show. The Alien TV show from FX on Hulu, currently in development. It could be currently in development before it goes into production for quite a long time. I'm certainly still quite interested in this. And the way I see it, obviously there are certain things in the current day, which I do believe that the culture war is gradually petering out. And we're now seeing at the point now where creatives and certain people, factions within fan bases, are doing everything they can to extend the warfare for as long as they can, because they've got something to gain from it. And with any luck, both Alien and I think another thing I'd like to see sort of hold off until it's all over, or most of it's over,
Chris,
is James Bond. I think that the longer, what I'm saying, Ian, is that the longer that it takes to make this show, I feel the more a chance we have that it will be good, because fashions will change, discourse will change.
Again, though, I'd side with Chris. They should be creating new stuff. They shouldn't going back to the well.
But they're not. They are making this.
Yeah, I know.
Disney.
They got no new ideas.
Yeah. Well, that's why.
Disney
owned
the IP.
Why Disney purchased Fox. One was to get the back catalog for their streaming service, but the other one was because they wanted to own these franchises. They own Alien, they own Predator, they own the X-Files, which is why X-Files is now out of print in terms of physical media.
Out of print again.
The Blu-rays are out of print. Fox is. You could still get they're all out of print.
That explains why I've seen people importing the German editions to the States.
Yeah, no, it's that's what Disney's done. That I think they want to do something with it. But yeah, those Blu-rays of the Blu-ray remasters that were cheap I bought it when it first came out back in 2015. But those Blu-rays, which for years you could get a season for $20, they quietly went out of print. If you find them, they're fetching collectors' prices. They're now around for Canadian. If you can find them from a marketplace seller, they're about $100. The only reason you can still get the DVDs, which are also out of print, but there were so many of them available, you can still get those relatively cheap. But
I've got a full set.
Yeah, they've Fox has pulled it. The German edition, and the German edition apparently is region free, from what I've heard, as long as because it's rights holders in Germany. Slightly different. Like it's owned by Fox, but they can do what they want with it.
You only just got to put up with the name of it, don't you? You've only just got to put up with the German name.
Used to be on Amazon, the whole series from 1 to whatever. It used to be on Amazon.
It was for a year. Well, this is what and Amazon is a terrible streaming service. You talk about things disappearing from Netflix. No, it's worse on Amazon. I've noticed a trend with Amazon where they're non-original content. It seems that they license shows for a year. At least I know they do here in North America on Canadian Netflix. And then after a year, it disappears. And often you're not done watching it. It's one of them that really irritated me, which was one of my favorite shows, is Bates Motel.
I like that show.
Yeah, well, I watched it last year. It was on Netflix, and then it went to Prime. So I watched it last year. I'm like, I want to watch that show again. I'm like, oh, Christ.
But thing is though, Chris, if you buy the show on Netflix, Amazon, and then they lose the rights over it, because when you buy it, it stays on Amazon, doesn't it? It's not physical. It's on Amazon.
As a rule, I outside of streaming services, I don't buy.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if you buy it and then they require the rights, Disney requires, does it mean say it disappears? You've literally paid for that.
Well, they
yes.
Well, if they buy,
it's happened to me. It happens with apps all the time.
No, that's why you want physical media. Entire library will be gone, and that's what I did.
When you get an iPad with an app or whatever, when you buy an app for an iPad, say for an iPad 7, right, and you love that app, you use it all the time for your video editing or anything like that, and then the iPad 8 comes out, and then it's like it's not compatible with your iPad 8, or we're no longer updating this app, and it's no longer able to be working with iPad 7. So you actually lose it. You actually
have to power over to something that you've purchased. In other words,
that's why I've
never
need to
buy a disc.
So that's why, as a rule, I never buy, even if it's not available on physical media. I refuse to buy anything digital. I think I bought like maybe 3 digital albums back in like 2008. I don't pay for apps. I find free apps. Like if I pay for something, I want to own it, and if it's going to go away, and it is a problem because you and the cost of streaming is, if you want to buy a digital copy, it's about the same as if you're going to buy it in physical. And there are stories where people, you spend like $30 or whatever for a movie. You go, and I'm like, oh, I no longer have the rights to watch this. You don't get your money back. What I did is, so I got mad. I went back. I'm like, and Prime is terrible because at least on with Netflix, you go into your account, you can see what it shows you is what's available now. No, Prime will show you everything you've ever added, and then you go and you see absolutely nothing is still available. Which is why I stopped.
Really, I hadn't noticed that.
Oh no, I did. I went in because I don't save things to my Amazon list anymore for this reason. But I went in one day. I'm like, all these documentaries and things like gone.
Yeah, you think I'll watch it on a rainy day?
Gone. Nope. So I ended up, and it wasn't cheap either. It was $150. So I'm like, to hell with this. This is one of my favorite shows. So I bought the Blu-ray set for $150. Like, so now if it's a show that I really like that isn't a streaming exclusive, it goes back in the library. That's after probably almost 10 years of not buying TV shows. I've actually gone back to buying TV shows.
Can't lose.
Well, at least the Dresden Files are still there, because I actually brought the Dresden Files on Amazon. It wasn't available on Blu-ray or DVD.
I've got them on DVD.
It's still there. Thank God. Love the Dresden Files.
Excellent stuff. So I think we safely say it's our enthusiasm for the Alien TV show generally on the panel. It's somewhat muted, I think. But let us know what you think watching along on YouTube.
Fondly
remembered in the comment section too. Have a think about Ian's pitch for an Alien TV. It sounds like they're not too far away from Ian's pitch after all. We're going to get the Mega Alien take But let us know what you think of that so far, or where should they go with this, or do you agree with Chris? And they should just let it go.
Make it go away.
I agree with Chris. I take it back. I agree with Chris.
Alien the musical. Yeah.
Okay, that I'll see just out of curiosity. They do a musical.
Oh God, don't even joke about it. They keep talking about musical episodes of Doctor Who and all sorts of things. No, please, please don't do this to us. Don't do it. Okay. Let's head over to let's go back. Let's go stretch back to the 1970s. Cast our minds back to my childhood, when I remember talk of a particular film, a very scary movie that was going around the cinemas and turning up on VHS2 when VHS first launched in the country. I'm talking about Steven Spielberg's movie Jaws this was originally released in 1975, wasn't it, Ian? A major release. They credit this as single-handedly inventing the summer blockbuster, and it blanket bombed the public with a $1.8 million marketing campaign. Now, that doesn't seem like much in today's terms, but in 1975, that must have been huge, unprecedented.
Yeah, so you know what, right? It's one of the best movies ever made, in my opinion. Don't care what anyone says, and it's brilliantly well directed, well shot, well performed, right across the board. There's there are a lot of little faults in it, like continuity errors and stuff like that, and obviously the shark looks a bit rubber. Actually, it does look a lot rubber, but apart from that, though,
you can't say that, because this is the mega pick for this edition of the show. We're talking Jaws at IMAX, because you went to the cinema. It's one of these movies, isn't it, that's just been put out into the cinemas again. You've seen several recently. You've seen 2 Star Trek movies, E.T., and you do go to a few of them. You were just talking about the past. They should bring things back. They're bringing these back, trotting them out, and you're willing to go and pay good hard-earned money.
Yes, I've got it on Blu-ray. Right, but the idea is to see it on the huge screen. See what happened. Me and Keith went to see it yesterday. Right, what happened was we went to the Empire, and I'm going to diss the Empire now. Empire in Leicester Square, and we sat halfway through the movie, and they put the AC on, and we were freezing. My nose was cold. And I went out and I found the manager, and I said, "Look, can you take down the AC, please? Because I'm literally freezing in there." Right. And I said to Keith, and went back and I said to Keith, look, if they don't turn it down the next half an hour, I'm leaving. Right. Because if you don't leave, they don't give you your money back. Right. So if you sit there and suffer and watch the whole movie and you come out and you complain, they don't give you anything. So the third act was about to happen. And I said to Keith, look, screw this. This is ridiculous. I'm going. And Keith followed, and we met the manager, and the manager gave us free tickets. It lasts the whole year to see anything we want because of that fact. And then me and Keith went to another cinema, and we saw it again on the same day.
And they put the heating on?
No. We went
to get free cinema tickets. Yeah. A tip for the Mega Geek there: go and complain about the AC. Even if you're fine, go and complain. It sounds like you're going to get a few.
No, I heard on YouTube that if I go to my cinema, I can get free tickets.
But you had a good time, though, didn't you? Please tell me you had a good time. After all this talk.
No, seriously. So basically, what happened was that, look, this is the rule, right? If you're watching a movie and there's something wrong, whether it be the AC or the film looks crap or whatever, it's too dark. If you don't complain about it, if you don't sacrifice the movie to complain about it, then they don't do anything about it.
I told you about when I went to see Solo, didn't I? When I saw the Star Wars movie, and the cinema I went to go and see that kept the frigging house lights on.
Yeah.
So the house lights were bouncing off the screen. Couldn't see jack.
Yeah. So if you don't complain,
they said to me, we get complaints about this all the time." Of course you do.
Yeah. So anyway, so what happened was that they gave us free tickets. We went away. We had something to eat, and then we found out another place where they were showing it, which was the Picture House, and we went to see it in the Picture House, and that version was in 3D. So the first version was an IMAX, and it wasn't in 3D, which had the picture quality was amazing, the IMAX one, but then we had to sacrifice it because of the problem. We went to see it in a smaller cinema in 3D, and do you know what? Halfway through the 3D thing, the 3D is good. Halfway through the 3D thing, your mind gets used to it. So I don't really see the point of putting it in 3D. I love 3D
movies. Absolutely. My TV is still 3D. I won't update it.
But none of that spoilt my enjoyment of the film because the film is
Yeah, it
that
looks
good. That's
amazing.
all I can say. I
I've
recommend it.
never seen this at the cinema. Chris, have you?
No, but well, no. This movie predates Little Chris by 3 years, so I was a negative age.
Little Chris.
I don't.
Oh, you're only a baby.
Yeah, I'm
Compared to us.
I'm Little Chris. I don't think it's ever replayed here. But one thing that I do want to say about Jaws, and it goes back to something that I was saying a little bit earlier. What makes and it's debatable. You can call this a horror, you can call this action, but one of the things that works about Jaws, and one of the reasons why I think it's one of the best films ever made, goes back to what I was saying earlier. You don't see the shark that much.
No.
And that was done purposely because they realized to use a British term, the shark looked a bit naff.
It wasn't working either.
No,
they had it hanging in Universal Studios for a while.
Yeah, that's why this works, because the famous theme, dun,
Yeah.
dun, but it creates this feeling of dread, and it does it masterfully. And these are the types of I'll call this a horror.
Well, this was Spielberg, wasn't it? I think he was looking to Alfred Hitchcock. I think in the way that he uses music, in the way that he uses image. And I'm not a director; I've never directed anything. But there's so many sequences for this which were, if not groundbreaking, gave a new sheen to old cinema tricks, weren't they, Ian? I'm thinking of this shot in particular, which
that was from Vertigo. So Hitchcock did it for Vertigo. Yeah. But the thing is, though, Spielberg it's in my opinion, he kind of just edges Hitchcock out, because Spielberg was the thing that Spielberg got right was that he was all about family at that moment in time in his life. He made a lot of family films and instigated the thriller element into most of them. So he added a bit of darkness into most of the films that were aimed for family. This is a prime example of that. I remember when I was a kid and I saw this in the cinema, it was an A. It should have been an AA, because in those days it was a U, A, AA, and X.
So what was the difference between an A and an AA? Because I remember those certifications.
Yeah, so U's universal. A was kind of like for I think 13, and then AA was basically 15, maybe even 18, and then X was completely, you shouldn't see it if you're a kid. But this film had a lot of blood in it and a lot of limbs floating and stuff like that. When I remember when I saw it as a kid, I was like, I'd never seen anything like that in my life, and I was terrified. So
yeah, I saw it on TV the first time. It scared the life out of me when you see that detached hand on the beach.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think I was like 8.
Yeah. It's look. Also, right, the way Spielberg directs this film is very old Hollywood. Very, very old Hollywood. If you look at some of the stuff that he does, if you look at Casablanca, or if you look at the old movies, it's very, very old Hollywood, the way he directs it and the way he directs it. In fact, the scene where Brody and Richard Dreyfuss' character trying to persuade the mayor to shut the beaches down is all done in one shot. Or it's called an unbroken shot. It's called a one-er, basically. And that was very much a style that they used to do in the old black and white movies. So, and also Spielberg did not want to use the Universal backlot. That's why they all suffered for that whole year while they were making the film. He wanted to be out in the water. Yeah. He wanted to be in, just like Duel, because they were saying to him, "Listen, kid, have back projection." And Spielberg's like, "No, because if I have back projection, it'll break the illusion. I want to be out on the road with that guy in the car." And it's the same thing with the boat and everything that happened in Jaws. He wanted to be out in the sea.
I know that due to the delays while they were making it, I didn't know it was over a year. I thought it was like 100 days or something like that.
No, it was longer.
They had so many mechanical disasters, didn't they, with sets breaking down, with the shark breaking down.
Well, it's like The Abyss. You want to read production horror stories? Yeah. Just do some research into The Abyss. Same idea. Yeah. We're actually going to put you through hell.
I've got a quote here from Steven Spielberg, who said that he feared that he was fully braced to be blacklisted. "I thought my career as a filmmaker was over. I was being told I would never work again." Do
you know what? Right, he ran away. Right, so one of the last shots that they did, I can't remember what it was. he knew that the crew was going to do something to him, right? And I think it was the last day he told somebody else to direct it, and he just jumped on the plane and ran away from the last day of shooting. So he knew something was going to happen. That's why he ran away. That's why it's so surprising to him that he got nominated and didn't win it, obviously, and how the film was revered after it's been made and put out there. So he pushed a lot of people. He pushed them because he was a young chap, and people just like, you mean this kid is going to direct this film? Do you know what I mean? So he was, nobody had any faith in him at all. He almost got fired a couple of times as well, but obviously he didn't fire him.
That poster as well is iconic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Fantastic.
So
designed.
simple. It's beautiful, and yet it's still so stark and grisly. It could still give you nightmares thinking about it.
Yeah.
And it did. I could
poster before I saw the movie, and
too.
It scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, I couldn't see this movie until I was in my 20s. And that's true, because I was just so scared of it for some reason. Plus, we also have great whites here, so it's not a good thing.
I was forgetting that.
We don't have that here. I'm very far from an ocean. We do have snakes, though.
Right. You know what, right? Then what makes me laugh is when I was watching this film in the cinema, the ending credits were so short. I was like, oh, the credits are finished. I expected the credits to go on.
Well, yeah, with modern movies, you get so used to them. Like, okay, so this movie is 25 minutes left, which means it's got 15 and 10 minutes of credits. But yeah, that's the thing with older movies. I'm like, no, the running time is the running time because the credits are like 30 seconds.
One more thing I like to add, right, is that the IMAX version was so good that do you remember the scene where the woman slaps Brody because her son got eaten? You can actually see the tear in her face. Because when you watch it on TV, you don't. That's why I thought, she's not crying at all. She's just pretending to cry. But when you watch it on IMAX, you can literally see the tears coming out of her face. I was like, whoa, did they add that special effects or was she really crying? So I don't know. But you can actually, the quality is really good. The IMAX quality on this film is really good. Unlike E.T.
Can I ask with these remasters, because I know they've done it with Star Trek and that as well.
Yeah.
So these 3D things, the E.T. and all that. Are they coming out on Blu-ray, like in 3D?
Some of them are, I think. Some of them are.
Because if they're IMAX, are they going to be like...
Chris, what have you heard?
If you're talking about in terms of home media and 3D, no, that industry is completely dead. It lasted a little bit longer in the UK than it did over here. But I can never watch 3D at home because it gives me a migraine. But but for the home experience, there's like the 4K of Jaws, which came out 2 years ago, actually is worth getting.
It is.
I'm only you're only watching it at home on TV, but it's a brilliant. It's one of the best masters out there.
It is.
Yep. It's
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, that's what I was going to say. It's like that's one of the great things about 4K is it's made for film enthusiasts. So it's, there's no DNR, none of that crap, which hopefully is going away. It preserves the original look of the film, and it's as close as I've ever come to watching it in the theater. But yeah, in terms of 3D, not on physical, unless. So
if you look at the VHS, the scene where Brody's walking with the guy. In the beginning, he falls asleep on the beach and the girl gets killed. So basically the guy's saying she's missing. So there's a scene where they're walking on the sand. And in the VHS version, the sky is grey, right? Then when you watch the 4K version, it's blue. It looks like it's a beautiful place. The sand looks great. The sky looks blue. They look fantastic. And the 4K version is absolutely beautifully put together. It's worth the money to get the 4K version. It's really, really, really gorgeous. The quality. Well,
as always, Ian, thank you for keeping us informed about what's coming in these screenings, because I hear about them and I make a note of them, and I think maybe I'll go and see that, and I invariably never do. But it is. I think it's great that these films are getting out there. Obviously, it's good for cinemas. because we know they've had a bad couple of years. It's not just the pandemic, but the fact that Hollywood is making some really terrible movies. So people gradually are not going to see them, are they? It's completely understandable. Jaws is out in IMAX and Real D 3D for the first time from September the 9th. So that's from yesterday. And probably for a couple of weeks, you'll be able to go and see this, won't you, Ian? They keep them open for a little while.
Yeah, beware of Ben Gardner's head. That's all I can say when you watch this film in 3D. Let me tell you, I almost jumped out of my chair because it was 3D. That head coming out the boat was like ridiculous. I was like,
thanks for the tip there. So let us know what you think of that. Are you going to go and see Jaws there on the recommendation of the Mega Geek with his Mega Pick? Let us know what you think. And where do you rate Jaws? I think that the guys here are onto something there. I think it probably is. Certainly in the last 40 or 50 years, one of the most important and best thrillers, monster movies ever made.
Top 10 movies ever made.
Yeah, I think we're in with a shout with that. And it could be worth revisiting for a bigger, deeper dive. Just be careful how deep you dive in. at some point here on the channel, I think we're talking about doing some longer
Make sure you're in a shark cage, all right?
Movies like that. Yeah, but thank you to everybody who's been dropping comments about everything we've spoken about on this edition of the show. So with the first look at Wendell and Wild, we were talking about the Alien TV show and this big Jaws re-release. We're going to take a look now at the comments that people have added in the live chat here on YouTube. See who was first. And we're sticking with the nautical theme here, guys. A bit like your hat, Matt. It looks like you could be on an oil rig somewhere there with that.
I'm Popeye the Sailor Man.
That's it. We've got an ahoy from Crimpling Doubloon. It's good to see you here too, buddy. And 1-2 from Tony L. Hi everyone, I hope all is well. So there's lots of highs and hellos and a few little graphics there. I can't quite work out what that is, but good to see you too there, Jack. Comments as we move on through. Vanessa Law says, hi Ian, Dan, Crimpling, Gary, hey Matt, Peter. So saying hello to one of them. Good to see you, Vanessa. Okay, let's see if we can find some comments. I know we've got hi folks from Grand Moff Miranda. Lots of other names. Some of them I recognise, and some of them are new. Some are new to the channel too. Retro.Gary Akers, who was a guest on the show last week, says Ian's new place will have CCTV inside his apartment.
And you won't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, and he reminds us to be a liker, not a lurker. I like this. That's going on the shirt, Gary. We're nicking the copyright for that one.
Yeah.
Oh, and the chat has jumped. Lurker, liker, the poster. So we're talking, looking back at the Wendell and Wild thing there. We've got the Sodor engines. So that's the Thomas the Tank Engine reference, isn't it? So the poster looks like a 90s CGI TV show. Reminded me a little bit of the Rugrats, Matt.
Oh, more like Reboot, really.
No, yeah, I remember.
If you've ever seen Reboot, shocking.
Remember Reboot. Yeah. Reboot was fun.
I remember that too. Vanessa Law says Nightmare Before Christmas is to certain tastes, but not really hers. Yeah, they are probably an acquired taste, I suppose. And animation is generally, I suppose you could say. Some people don't watch it after they reach adulthood, do they? But I'm not one of them. I still watch a lot of vintage animation and current animation when I can. Gary adds for Harryhausen, I love The Golden Voyage of Sinbad with Tom Baker, Caroline Munro. Yes, I like most of the films, to be honest. I mentioned here from Jack, Curse of the Were-Rabbit, an animated masterpiece. I would agree with that too. We've got Corpse Bride with gets a nod there from Grand Moff Miranda. Yeah, that's solid Tim Burton, isn't it? Solid Tim Burton.
Like that.
Working our way through. People are less keen on, just like you guys, less keen on Jordan Peele being involved in this movie. I mean, the word producer, you see that on the poster. It's something, Ian, some people are more hands-on than others, aren't they? Sometimes a name on a poster is just a name on a poster, but in other times they really exert their influence, and you can tell, particularly if it's creative, that you've seen lots of things like before, and all of a sudden if there's a sort of a hard break and things seem to go off in a different direction, you're aware that other influence is being brought to bear. We do know, don't we? We pick up on that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, I said I've got nothing against him, and I think what he's doing is his heart is in his right place, trying to create a section for people of color and all that. That's fantastic, but please make stuff that that's good, because the majority of the stuff he's made is not very good. Sorry, go
Jack Thursby describes him, Chris, as the new M. Night Shyamalan. One hit and then a load of old rubbish.
No. No.
Even
No,
Shyamalan's not great. Shyamalan Ding Dong.
Actually, no. Shyamalan, confession time. He's one of my favorite directors, and
Yeah, I like him as
I
well.
now just lost all
like
cred,
him.
and I expect to be.
I like
And then
him
your
too,
cred
mate.
card.
No,
I haven't
but
seen the last
honestly, Jordan Peele doesn't have a unique style. He's
doesn't,
got
no.
themes. Shyamalan, the one thing that you can say is he has a style that is instantly recognizable, and it literally falls into the I love it or I hate it.
Yeah.
And Shyamalan, when he makes Signs is one of my favorite movies of all time. I'd say.
Oh, I thought you were going to say The Happening.
The Happening is enjoyable because it's so bad it's good. It's like a parody of Shyamalan's style. But no, even his terrible movies like Lady in the Water might possibly be that movie.
I
is
like
just ludicrous.
I like that one as well.
It's ludicrous, but it's enjoyable. But that's I don't know, and this is why he's I love it or hate it. Either you're going to love his style like I do, or you're going to hate it like most people do. And his recent movie, Old,
it was all right.
Ripped It Apart. I loved it. That was
possibly
my favorite movie of last year, as I lose more cred. But yeah, so no, Jordan Peele is not M. Night Shyamalan. M. Night Shyamalan, he's like one of those rare, very, very rare directors that has a unique style.
Yeah, see, he's a man of color, but yet he doesn't try to push that.
Well, no, he's never pushed narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
If you look at his first movie made in his style, that isn't Stuart Little, but the first movie that's in his style, which is The Sixth Sense, which is 1999. You compare it to Old, which was last year, so you're looking at 22 years between those movies. There's no he doesn't do messaging. Actually, would not fit his style. It would just be like it would be out of place. But and I think one of the reasons is he now finances his own movies. So studios aren't taking risks on them. He pays for them himself. And I know Old, it made several times what he invested back. So that's also the difference with Shyamalan, is at least in the past decade or so, because he's financing his own movies. There is no studio interference, so he has full creative control. So and Old is an oddity, especially last year, because it doesn't fit with everything else. I'm like, hey, where's the narrative? There is no narrative. Okay, the story's completely insane and nuts, which I love. But there's no narrative. It's pure Shyamalan. So when you go to one of his movies, you know what you're going to get, and it's going to be like Signs, like just brilliant, or it's going to be like The Happening, just so off the wall nuts that you're going to love it. You cannot hate a Shyamalan movie or be bored. Well, no, I guess you could say you could hate it, but you're never going to be bored with
I've never been bored by one of his films. No, certainly not. Looking at the Alien TV show now, we're looking at the comments from their comment section, see what people have got to say. Scott from the Game Closet Retro said, "Earth is next," preempting your take was there, Ian, about where they could go next. Peter Harrington says, "If they get out the Earth is a bugger." Yeah, well, if the Earth is if they get out, if they enter Earth's atmosphere, then Earth's bugged. Would be a huge series. Yeah, it would be. Cliff Maxwell says, "War as sponsored by mega money interests, medical experimentation, for profit, mass marketing of tech based on symbiotic genetics. The possibilities are pretty endless." So he's quite stimulated by the prospects. He's talking about weaponizing the aliens, I think. There, are you, Cliff? Yeah. I'm not really sure. They have to take it. That is the natural extension of where this must go, particularly if they are on Earth and with business rivals. Then it must be advancing down that road in some way, in the way that we've seen, I suppose, with the more recent Jurassic Park movies. That's kind of the natural extension of that. This is of this too, particularly if it's set in the future on the future Earth. But I don't know whether it'd be after the films or whether they're going to sort of sidestep the movies, some of the later movies. I mean, it remains to be seen, I suppose, how far they're going to adhere to that. Grandma from Miranda says, "Ripley didn't die. It was all a dream of a company exec whilst in the sonic shower." That could be the Get Out that they're trying, Chris. That Neil Blomkamp had in mind for when he was going to make the Alien 5 movie with Sigourney a few years ago. That could be.
Yeah.
What else have we got? Some other nuggets. Cliff also adds the main throng is that they shouldn't contradict any prior Alien-based story. There's loads of comic book-based stories from when Dark Horse had that license that could be made into film and TV. And you're absolutely right, Cliff. And it was the same. It was the same with Star Wars, wasn't it? But they contradicted. They ignored all of those too. So, if you notice, there's a brand new Alien comic book series that's just been launched by Marvel this week, which I would imagine doesn't adhere to any previous continuity. I've seen the preview page.
It's Family Life, isn't it? Aliens Family Life.
I don't think so. I don't know about that, but I've seen the preview pages. I'm not too keen on the illustrations. The cover art is fantastic, but then again, it always is with the Marvel books. Inside doesn't look very stimulating at all. Tony L mentions Terminator. You talked about the similarity there between the Terminator property, Chris, which has been definitely run into the ground. And Tony says, has anyone heard the rumors that the rights for the Terminator were sold for $1 by the guy who directed Charlie's Angels before the fourth film was made, featuring Christian Bale? I hadn't heard. You're talking about Terminator Salvation there, aren't you? I know that there was some sort of hijinks involved there, and he kind of directed the film as a bit of a, not a bet as such, but as a challenge. That's
McGee, that is.
McGee. And he seems... Is he Australian, Matt?
No.
He's not one of you.
No, we have George Miller, and that's enough.
Maybe. Just imagine if George Miller had made an Alien movie.
It would have been
back
amazing.
In the 80s too.
George Miller's an amazing director. Although his last film sucks, basically. But the
Genie one.
Yeah, the Genie one wasn't.
Yeah, and now he's making Furiosa. So.
Genie one wasn't very good. That's in the cinemas right now. The Genie one.
Scott's got a concept here in the Game Closet Retro. He says we find the original Ripley has been in suspended animation on the Earth, and it was a clone Ripley in Aliens and Alien 3 too. And she would be reawakened after the invasion occurs and see hundreds of Ripleys.
That's a bit of a fanfic.
In tubes.
Yes,
I mean,
it's just pretty fanfic. It's a good get out though when the franchise has been damaged and when that character has been damaged. I suppose I see what he means.
It just takes one movie to ruin it all.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Nuclear
site from orbit, says Darren M. It's the only way to be sure. Good advice.
But the thing is, if I had the choice, I wouldn't make. I would just leave Aliens as it was. Just leave it now. That's what I would do. But if I was forced to do something, I would go the route that I've said. But you know,
talk about coming a different route. Talk about coming a different route, Matt. What about aliens coming up through your toilet bowl? Peter Harrington suggested this. Could be quite nasty. A bit nippy. Yeah, watch your ball back. Hail the Mega Geek, says Matt. One there in the live chat too.
Cheers, pal.
And I've seen some more familiar names here as I've been skirting through. The chat keeps jumping. Jack as remake, reboot, reimagine, revisit, and a little emoji.
The problem is, because they make so much, it's sort of like one of those things where they try to clean the room and they make it more and more messy. And then they go, well, I'll try again, and then it becomes more messier. And they just go, well, I love this room, so we'll just keep trying to clean it, and they just can't, And I think that's happening with all these franchises. They just keep trying to try and fix things, and they make it worse.
Yeah,
I like the idea, and I know that originally Star Trek Discovery was going to be an anthology show when Brian Fuller was involved. And I do think that Alien in particular, because if you remove Sigourney Weaver, you haven't got a star. So if the aliens are the stars, then maybe that could be an anthology show, which is something that Colin Archer speculates here in the live chat. I think the Alien universe might lend itself to an anthology style series where each episode is not necessarily connected to the others. Do you think that's a viable way, Chris? Do you think that's interesting in any way? Or has that been done too?
I can think of
he's on the toilet.
I can think of examples when it's done right. The Twilight Zone and the original Outer Limits, maybe even the 90s Outer Limits. Well, for the first half of it anyway. It can also be done very badly, like the Twilight Zone.
Not from the 80s. That was good.
It'd be an interesting idea. There has to be a connective thread through them, obviously. I think they'd have to be done chronologically because there has to be some kind of story to tie them all
Some
together.
narrative for the audience to latch on to.
Yeah. I think the seasons would have to be limited to a maximum of 10 episodes, because when you end up with filler episodes in an anthology series, it's not going to go well. People are going to run away.
Half an hour. They just need to be half an hour each.
But do you know what they need to do
Like
with
Cobra
this,
Kai.
right? They need to rev it up. Like, do you remember 24? Every episode of 24, you were edge of your seat in it, and he was put in impossible situations.
And
that's what they should do.
That,
in that kind of
kind of momentum, with the star, male or female, at the dead center of that, and to keep up the tension. God, that could really work.
That would be great. That'd be absolutely great. But they're not going to do that. They're not going to do it.
Remains to be seen. We've got a comment here from Geek Rambles, our mate Shah, who says she couldn't watch The Walking Dead after realizing that Glenn was that geezer out of Love Actually. I think I know who you mean. I think I know who you mean. Good to see you, Shah. I hope you're having a good weekend.
Gave up on it.
Hope you've sobered up, or maybe you're getting ready to go out for that. I don't know.
She's going to get that reputation.
I know. I said I wouldn't do that anymore, didn't I? Jack Thursby says they're grinding our childhood favourites into the dirt. Kids today are not getting their own classics, just watered down, corrupted versions of ours. It's so sad. I can't really argue.
I agree as well. You know what, right? Until they realise that we are the audience with this stuff, they're going to be aiming for an audience that doesn't exist.
I mean, even things, Ian, that are successful where you don't think they're going to be successful. Those two Paddington movies, and we saw that this week with the sad news about Her Majesty. The Paddington as a character created by Michael Bond originally, those books and those animations that were on when I was a kid. Paddington as a cultural thing has never been bigger than now, largely based on the popularity of those two movies and the way that brand has been managed really nicely ever since. Kids love Paddington now more than ever. And I know that's not the same, Jack, because again, you could say that's also a hand-me-down. But to modern kids, they think that the Paddington that they've got now, that little CGI character voiced by Ben Whishaw, to them, that's the only Paddington there's ever been. And I think that it's because it's been offered in a really sensitive way, and in a very now way, in a very 2022 way, with modern technology and modern sensibilities in a good way. They're very aware of the attention spans of kids and what it's competing against. So that I don't know whether that was by accident or by design. I know there's a third film coming. I can't imagine that it's gonna go on for too much longer before somebody screws it up. But the success of those movies has really surprised me. How there's a Paddington themed shop in London, all sorts of things now, and I never thought it would come to that. Slight rabbit hole there, everybody, but I'm a little bit fascinated with where it's gone with Paddington. Hello, everyone, says Shah after dropping that truth bomb there earlier on. Matt just says, I honestly believe the Alien show is dead on arrival. That's a bit of a black pill there, Matt. I think that's stretching it, because this is the brand, the name Alien, and the fact that poster, the only key art that we have is the stark logo against black. I think it still has worth. And I agree with everything that Chris said. I think it depends on whoever is going to be producing and writing this as to whether it's going to have life or not, and inspire anybody or not, and extend or just disappear. I think when Dan sees my name, he dies a little inside, says Shah. I guess if I would. It's always a pleasure, never a chore. And lots more comments too about your assertion there about the X-Files box sets there, Chris, now being out of print. Grand Moff Miranda says, I have the box set of the X-Files, but no Blu-rays, just the DVDs, just like me.
It's actually one of the few shows I never bought on DVDs. It's the only show I never bought on DVDs.
I've got the box set. It takes up about that much. Okay, that much of my shelves. Whereas if I was to have gone down to the Blu-ray when it was in print, it would take up that much. So I have thought about upgrading. I've got the Lone Gunman too. I've got Millennium.
Here's a bit of trivia
that's what I missed out. I love Millennium.
The first season of the X-Files, which came out in May of 2000, was the first full series TV set to come out on DVD, and it was actually done as a test run to see if TV on DVD was viable.
As Buffy, didn't it?
It was a test run for what?
So because the concept of releasing an entire TV series in one set, it couldn't happen on VHS because that would be one big set. So and it was Fox, which put out a lot of the early shows. So they decided to put out the X-Files was one of the most popular shows on TV. They had a limited VHS series where they put out like the best of the X-Files.
Yes.
So they wanted to see if it was viable to put out a full series on DVD. And I still have that original DVD. It's completely unglued itself and it's a mess. But so the idea was, okay, so if we put out a full set and price it reasonable, or what was considered reasonable back then, which was $180 Canadian for the full series, which now is a lot. Yeah, nobody would buy it for that now. But keep in mind, compared to what you were paying for, if you wanted to buy a full Star Trek series, for example, on VHS, you're looking at $500. So it actually was a deal. So they put it out. I think it actually went out of print a few times because they sold so many. Like I remember I was there the day it came out, picking it up. And so that's why they ended up doing TV on DVD. Buffy came out the first season, January. My memories to when things happen could be scary at times, but that came out in January of 2002. So about a year and a half later.
I know I bought both of them as soon as they were released, and I think I paid about £80 for season 1 of the X-Files.
Yeah, and same with Buffy.
Been around
Buffy
50.
Well, if you look at that and you translate it to when the full series set came out in October 2015, I think in some places it came out December, but here it was October. I pre-ordered that, and I've got all 9 seasons of the X-Files, the original run, in a box. So just to put it in perspective, so by 2015, I bought the entire series for $150 Canadian, so $30 less than one season in 2000. But it's worth picking up on Blu-ray because what they've done the Star Trek treatment. The X-Files was shot on 35 mil from the beginning. They've gone in, they've re-edited it. It looks like it could have been shot last week. God. Like it's actually, and it was always shot in 16:9. So
yes,
because Buffy wasn't, was it? The first couple of seasons of Buffy weren't shot on higher grade.
No, Buffy was.
Oh, it was.
There's a terrible.
Buffy was shot in 35.
X-Files was the first one to ever have Dolby Surround.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to have that on.
I'm going to so regret that I didn't upgrade those. Lots of people, again, are saying the same thing. I'm sad to see that's gone out of print. And everybody is unanimous, Ian, in backing up what you've said about Amazon removing things that you're watching, same with what you were describing, Chris, and people saying physical media is best, even if you have to burn it or save it yourself, as Colin Archer says here.
Well, it's also, you got to remember too, if you have things like streaming on Disney Plus, like some things like Splash and all that, those things are being cut out, even in the Muppets. Things are being cut out. Yeah.
Absolutely awful. Shah says that Chris is like the American Martin Lewis. Now, Chris, Martin Lewis in this country, he's a guy who goes on TV. I think he's got his own website and like a newsletter too. And he calls it I always think of his name. His name is Martin Money Saving Expert Lewis. He's got all different ways in which you could get the most the most bang for your buck. Really, how you can save on household bills and where to get the best deals and things, and where you can discounts and vouchers and all that kind of thing. So yeah, with physical media, I think people such as you, Chris. I know that you've been deeply into this for decades, and same with me to a lesser extent. And obviously Keith from Home Media Minefield too. Go and subscribe to Keith by all means. Yeah. What he doesn't know about physical media isn't really worth knowing. Miranda says Ian's right. I'll just let that hang in the air. Ian's right.
But you know what, right?
About buying films. Look what happened to PlayStation in Germany. Lots of people lost all their movies.
They've got the X-Files complete season 1 to 9 on Blu-ray on Amazon. It's region free, and it's 129 quid. Now, when I say all 1 to 9,
that's the German version.
Yeah. Okay, but Chris, when I say 1 to 9, do they include the ones with the guy from Terminator 2?
That's seasons 8 and 9.
I hate those seasons. I've
always been in the minority. I like them, and I'll briefly tell you why. The last season and a half, and especially the last season with David Duchovny, the show had become a parody of itself. I hate season 7. I can't stand season 7. It's unwatchable.
It's like they're treading water conceptually, isn't it?
Well, they'd run out of ideas, so the show literally I used to compare it to Ally McBeal at the time. They've turned the X-Files into Ally McBeal, and I hated season 7. What they did when Robert Patrick came in for seasons 8 and 9 is they completely changed the show back to what it was, but made it even more disturbing. Some of the darkest episodes are in those last 2 seasons. You could tell that they removed the comedy, they removed the silliness, and it was back to it went from being sci-fi. It was, especially season 8, it went closer into the realm of horror.
Is this the one you've got though, Chris? Is this the one you've got, the Region 3 one, season 1 to 9, or
no, the one that we got in Canada and the US?
I have the British version.
Was Region 1 locked? No, right. If you're looking at the Region 3, that's the German one. And what's
the quality like on that one then? Is that
same transfers?
All right, okay. Yeah. So it looks great then.
Yeah, although if you order it, I'm almost certain that's the German one. It may have German text on it, but
apparently it does. It's pretty good. It has English.
Oh yeah, well. No, you just change the. You just change the audio track and the episodes are fine. So if you can get away with,
remember to go into
with artwork or with German text, which to be honest, I wouldn't have. I've got some Blu-rays like that. It wouldn't bother me. I want the show, and if you're an X-Files fan and you've never checked out these Blu-rays, check them out. And it's better if you look at the version that's streaming on Disney Plus Star in Canada and the UK. I've just checked it out. The Blu-rays are actually far superior to the compressed artifact streaming versions.
It's not available. It's currently unavailable.
What's unavailable?
The German one.
People buying that up now too. Moons of Madness says here he's got so much to add to his collection, but I can't afford any more than a tiny bit of the time. No, we've all got to sort of work our way down that list, haven't we? I've certainly got a list. I've got a list on Amazon, add to basket, see if it gets a little bit cheaper. And if I notice it's gone up by a couple of quid, I'm there sort of cursing myself. And Jason Finn says, I worked in a video store in the 1990s and was offered to buy the entire VHS run of Star Trek The Next Generation. When I asked why she was selling, she said, they're an ex-boyfriends. Ouch. We've all heard stories.
$3,500.
God.
The only one that's worth buying is the movie, which I already got, the Blu-ray movie. It's
Ian,
annoying.
I've got it in Australia for
all right, okay, cool.
$280.
Holy crap.
And on that bombshell, we have lots of people, lots of laxed X-Files fans in the chat. They're also talking about this box set, and I feel like going and watch an episode of the X-Files now.
I love the X-Files.
How great it was. And,
I love the show. So amazing. It's so amazing.
I'll ever tell you the story of when I almost became an extra on the X-Files.
Go on, quickly. Okay. Tell us this. Go on.
I put in for a competition, and I was a runner-up. So all I got was a stupid diary, X-Files diary instead. But the girl ended up
between presents.
Well, it would have been a great part for me because it was set in a mental asylum. So
could have been written for you, mate. What's going on?
But how I just briefly how I got into it was I used to work for a graphics post-production, and they used to make me work all the way through the night, and they used to have a VHS in the studio, and I used to tape X-Files. So I do all my work at 2:00 in the morning, then sit there and watch like 2 episodes of the X-Files, then go home to sleep, and then do it all over again. That's how I got hooked onto X-Files. It's because of VHSs and then the broadcasts and stuff like that. So
I couldn't get enough of it.
I watched the first review of X-Files when it came to Australia, and the woman said it's not going to last. And literally 3 weeks after it was on, like she had to come on and say I was wrong.
Well, the original concept was thrown out the window a few episodes in, because if you watch the first few episodes, they were based on
Nightcrawler?
documented accounts. So that's for the first 3 episodes. Obviously, Mulder and Scully were fictional characters, but no, these were actual documented cases. And that went out the window by like the 5th episode. And they're like, no, we can't do this. It's the same episode every week. So then they introduced the Tombs episode was the first one.
Great.
They're like, okay, we need. We're
gonna
have to go and reconnect with the X-Files on the very first full edition of the Spacebook Listed. Ian and I, we got together with Samantha Joe, didn't we? And we talked all things X-Files because she'd got quite a close connection with the show too. We talked about the fandom, the evolution of the show. But it's definitely something I want to revisit. I think there could be scope to go back to it and look at one of these benchmark episodes and do a real deep dive on that. Ian, if people want to deep dive on all things Mega Geek, on whatever you're up to, whatever you're going to see at the cinemas, what you're having for your lunch, and what you think about all kinds of random stuff, they can find you on Twitter, can't they?
I'm on Twitter, but also please check out my channel, the Rebecca Gold channel, which has my web series on it, has a couple of movies on there. I'd like to have a few more subs. That'd be nice. And enjoy yourself because I make stuff. So there you go.
He makes it happen. He makes it happen.
I make it happen.
How about you, Matt? Obviously, it's a slightly different time of the day for you now. You're about to go to bed, aren't you?
He's
but when you wake up, you get huge.
I'm a night owl, mate. I can stay
going to bed. It's like 10 in the morning.
It's like 1 o'clock in the morning here, and I'm wide awake. So
you can look for another few hours.
Yeah,
people can find you on Twitter as well, though, can't they?
You can find me on Twitter, and also don't forget my Instagram.
It's
Matt Pop with Charlie. And you can see lots of behind the scenes images, me wearing glasses because apparently I need glasses. I like that now. One. Oh my god, I need freaking glasses. I can't believe I'm that old.
But not your dad's.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna go to the optometrists, I know.
Well, sorry to hear that, mate. I hope the weekend gets a touch better. And how about you, Chris? Where can people find you, get in touch with you, interact with you, and whatever you've got coming up? Soon, because now cultivated media is about to blossom, isn't it, with a bit of luck?
Yes, I am Chris. Some of you may have known me previously as the name I went under for 15 years, which was Bull's Trek, until I retired that name and that content about 6 months ago now. My plans keep getting pushed back because I work 60 hours a week. So when I'm not working 60 hours a week, my plan is to go back to making videos and rebrand my now defunct channel as Cultivated Media Incorporated. And it's going to be a horror channel, absolutely no relation to what I did in the past. And right now there is a chance I may have some time to finally get around to this around Christmas time. We'll see how that goes. But it will be the old channel, youtube.com/BullsTrek, rebranded as Cultivated Media Incorporated, where we will be discussing horror movies. I'll probably do live streams. And for now, I can be reached on Twitter, which it's Twitter at horror_fan1978. I mainly post about horror movies or occasionally non-horror movies that I'm watching, and the adventures of Sky, the black lab puppy, who is now 5 months old, and I'm sure you've heard her complaining in the background.
No, I hadn't. She said, yeah, she looks very sweet and sounds good as gold from where we're.
I don't know if you could hear in the background. She threw, because when I'm working at my desk, because she's little, she has to be in her crate or she'll eat my house. But I don't know if you could hear in the background. She threw a little fit about halfway through the stream, so she was tossing her bowls around her crate. And, it was kind of cute.
So lots more to come from Chris and Sky. Cultivated Media Incorporated. I can't wait to see where you go with this, mate. Really looking forward to it. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. It says the guy who never posted Instagram. I need to shape up my Instagram quite a lot. Twitter and Instagram as the Spacebook, as the _Spacebook, where I'm talking about all of this and all of that too in out there entertainment across all media, whatever catches my eye, tickles my fancy, and gets my imagination whizzing and whirring. I'm in the mood to watch something scary tonight, something a little bit grim. But I think what I'm going to actually have to do is, because obviously it's the last 48 hours or so have been quite hard for most people in Britain. And we've been very distracted and still are, because we're very much mourning somebody who a lot of us consider strangely, whether we met her or not, as family. And but she wouldn't want us to be she'd want us to be to have her in her thoughts. I know, because she had all of us in her thoughts for the best 70 years. But yeah, life in the meantime, day-to-day life obviously moves on, and history turns the page. And we're seeing history happen right now in Great Britain. Lots in the news daily, keeping on top of that, and being there for family members too, for older members of the family who got longer memories than such as I, who remember. My mother, for example, was talking about when the old king passed away, and we were talking about our grandparents and things like that. So it just brings to mind people that you've lost and times long past. It makes you sad for them, and certainly sad for Her Majesty and the royal family too. But in light of that, yeah, I haven't got into Cobra Kai season 5 yet, so I'm going to get cracking on that tonight, along with a couple of other things that I missed during the week. So I'll be staying clear of most of Twitter, because I know there'll be people out there trying to spoil it. I'll be back with coverage, with a review of Cobra Kai season 5 at some point in the next week or two. I can't remember if these two guys watch it, if Matt and Ian watch it.
I do.
I need to watch it. I need to get to
it. You do, yeah, because I know Andy's a big fan. Andy from Atomic Blonde LDN. I think I'll have to physically restrain her from talking about it when we get on the next show. So I look forward to all of that. Thank you to everybody who's contributed in the live chat here on YouTube. It's been very, very lively. Thank you to everybody, and it's good to see you, Shah. Take care, folks. Got lots of people, and yes, reminding you to subscribe. You bunch of diamonds. I love that. Terrific stuff. Yes, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the cloister bell so you get all the notifications about what we're doing next and when we're doing it. Could be another live stream like this, another edition of the Spacebook Live podcast. Twice a week we've been doing these. I'm really happy with the relaunch. I think we've got a really nice vibe, and the slot really, it works for us. I hope it works for you guys too. And we'll keep watching, keep on top of the kind of media. Now, some of it is the stuff that other people are talking about, but I like to think that we talk about it with a very particular perspective here, a different kind of tone. And please continue to share the videos. It's one thing to tell me that this channel deserves more subscribers. I already know. You have to tell everybody else. Get them to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share those links, everybody. But that's it for this time. We'll be back with more coverage of all things in out there entertainment soon enough. But now, we have to split, everybody. Got to split. Speak to you all again soon.
Bye.